The Legio Ignatum boasts a proud lineage that few other Titan legions can match. They are one of the Triad Ferrum Morgullis, the first of that illustrious brotherhood. It is by the fire of their weapons and the steel of their resolve that Mars was safeguarded through the long years of the Age of Strife, for, by their ancient oath, while any warrior of Ignatum still stood, no harm would come to those places left in their charge. It is the stubborn defiance, the bitter intransigence of the face of impossible odds, that would become the cornerstone of Legio Ignatum's fame, for never in the history of the Order had they chosen to retreat in the face of the enemy. This ironclad loyalty was to be both a blessing and a terrible curse, at once the pride of the Legio and also the reason for their exile and near destruction at the dawn of the heresy. While the warriors of Mortis and Tempestus knew no creed other than death and destruction, the Titans of Ignatum often came to the aid of those isolated forges all but overrun by the monsters that roamed Mars. Many of these lesser forges would pledge fealty to Ignatum's masters, seeking to gain in perpetuity the indefatigable protection of these warriors and their Titans. Only in defence of their forge fanes were the warriors of Ignatum truly roused to open anger, boiling forth to give battle with a ferocious zeal when those fastnesses were threatened. To those who had dared to trespass upon the ground they had sworn to defend, they offered none of the courtesy for which they were otherwise known. On many occasions, the Princeps of the Legio Mortis would mistake the forbearance of Ignatum for weakness and seek to dominate them by force, only to be met with defiant fury, and many credit the principal reason why the otherwise rapacious warriors of Mortis did not fully conquer Mars to be the steadfast valour of the Legio Ignatum. From this came their cognomen, the Fire Wasps, named for the ancient predator of old Earth, whose nests none would dare defile lest they woke the beasts slumbering within. With the coming of the Emperor to the Red Planet and the signing of the Treaty of Mars, the Titan legions that made up the Triad Ferrum Morgullis would be granted new roles in the unified Mechanicum. Where Legio Mortis were bound to be a tool of utter destruction brought down upon Mars's foes, and Legio Tempestus were crusaders carrying Mars's will to the stars, Legio Ignatum became the protectors of the Mechanicum. The Fire Wasps would stand sentinel over the domains of Mars, both the sacred fanes of the Red Planet and those key installations scattered across the Segmentum Solar and beyond. For much of the Great Crusade they would fight only in defence of those worlds reclaimed in the name of the Mechanicum, fending off Xenos incursions and crushing rebellions among the thralls. Among the most famous of their battles was the defence of the Ultrect Magni, one of the first worlds invaded by the Orcoid warlord Erlak Erg, and the beginning of the campaign that would culminate in a historic battle on the world of Ulanor. There, on the very edges of Segmentum Solar, a dozen Titans of the Legio Ignatum stood sentinel over the seed of a new forge world sown at the edges of the Red Planet's domain. Perhaps seeking to reap the wealth of technology within the Enclave's walls, Erlak Erg would unleash his hordes against them as part of a wave of conquest, the last desperate onslaught of the only remaining Orcoid empire of note within the borders of the early Imperium. More than 100 lumbering Orcoid scrap constructs led the assault, backed by uncounted swarms of crude gun platforms, a force large enough that the defenders would never hope to withstand them unaided. Indeed, the warriors of the Fire Wasps would not win glory and victory, but would instead be immortalised for their heroics and defeat. Over the course of 4 long days of fighting, the 12 Princeps would sell their lives and their Titans dearly, stubbornly refusing to abandon the defence and evacuate their Titans, while any of the ground crews remained at their stations. The Warlord-class Titan, Perditus Existimamma, was the last to fall, its final battle captured unpicked by the evacuating Magi, its guns firing even as the shambling Orcoid monsters pulled it down. When the Legio Ignatum took to the field at Ulanor to see the final end of Erlak Erg, it was to the fanfare of war horns of those Titans gathered, a salute to the fallen and a call for vengeance. This fame, the renown for a loyalty that even the most fearsome of odds could not shake, would seal the fate of Legio Ignatum. On Mars, a new order was slowly and quietly taking power, the servants of Horus having fully suborned the leadership of the Mechanicum and turned them to the service of the War Master. The Legio Mortis and much of the Legio Tempestus had already sworn their loyalty to this new master, leaving only the incorruptible Fire Wasps to stand for the Loyalist cause, unaware of the treachery that surrounded them. What would follow, the Battle of Mars and the destruction of Magma City, are well known to history. The traitor Titans and their allies turned on the few Loyalists left on Mars, obliterating them from ambush and burning the cities they had protected for centuries, with those of Legio Ignatum fighting to the last in defence of the forge fanes they were swore to protect. It is held by Legio Ignatum as a mark of bitter honour that none of their brethren stationed on Mars would survive the treachery that began the Horus heresy, each and every one dying in battle against those that had forsaken their oaths. Those that survived in distant posts around the Segmentum Solar took heart from this sacrifice, for though the Imperium was now riven by war, their oaths remained unbroken and their name unsullied. Their course was clear in the face of such perfidy, for oath-breakers would not be allowed to remain unpunished. But with the fall of the Master of Ignatum on Mars, there remained no single leader to guide the Firewasps. Each individual detachment chose for themselves to either hold to their stations or seek out the traitors in the name of vengeance. Despite the division within this once mighty Titan Legion, each warrior was determined to fulfill the oaths they had sworn. The traitorous Fabricator General had removed from Mars the one force he could not turn, but had failed to strike a lethal blow. In doing so, he had gained only a short respite, for now awakened to fury, the Firewasps turned their every thought to vengeance, bent their every action to the defeat of those that had forsaken their honour. For those they had once called brother, the warriors of Mortis and Tempestus, they reserved the deepest hatred, seeing in them a twisted reflection of themselves and taking every chance to meet them in battle to prove once again the strength of their loyalty, a loyalty that would be repeatedly tested until the bitter end of the Horus heresy.